Hey y'all, it's the Iron Sun, and this is one of my favorite topics, so I'm gonna dive right into it. So I think one of my topics was called Masquerading Alpha, and I had a part one and part two. This is you could call this part three, but it's a clip of it. It's a clip in itself. It's called Betas Attract Betas. So a lot of times these terms are used to infinity, and it's kind of annoying sometimes because really at the end of the day, man attracts woman, woman attracts man. It's just kind of it used to be super simple back then. We didn't have to come up with these words to describe things that just naturally happen. But in my opinion, that's what happens when society gets so far out of whack. And when you say society, it just means a group of men and women. So if that helps, adds to the perspective. So betas attract betas. So one of the main points to this is if you're a beta, you're going to attract a beta. So for example, if you're a man and you are a beta male, then that would mean you are more on the feminine side. You're not on the masculine side. So I'm not necessarily trying to get at guys who are more feminine. That's not the point of this. But to go further, if you're a beta male, then you're going to attract a beta female. The reason being is because opposites attract. So, for example, you're a beta male, so that means you're likely going to be a little bit more on the feminine side. You're going to have a lot of feminine traits. So you're going to attract a woman who's masculine, a woman who has masculine traits. And a woman who has masculine traits, well, that's a beta female. So for this example, that's at least how to explain why betas attract betas. And while betas are attracting betas, opposites are still attracting. So, in order to understand what I'm talking about, first off, opposites attract. So if the man is feminine and the woman is masculine, they're still attracting their opposite. So, yeah, I'm sure you probably heard women out there who are either very heavy in their masculine orientation. I know the culture's kind of pushing a lot of them to be in that disposition. It doesn't serve the ones who actually want to attract very masculine men, however, because those men tend to be drawn to feminine energy. And if a woman is masculine and she claims she wants, an alpha male, then it's weird. It's like looking left and running right. It's like looking left and saying you want to run right. It's confusing. So a metaphor I think about is when Naruto was trying to figure out how to make change the nature of his Rasengan, and he decided to use two shadow clones, one to do one thing and one to do the other thing. That's just what I think. That's just what comes to mind, just off the top of my head. I would submit that humans were a little bit more simplistic than that. We don't really have to think about complicated things. So, now, I went to the beta male side. Now, on the opposite side, if you have a beta female, then she's going to attract a beta male. And the reason why I say that is because a beta female, I said opposites attract, right? So a beta female, she's going to be more on the masculine orientation. So, or she's going to be more on the masculine energetic side. So she's going to attract the opposite of that energy. So she's a career woman, she's working hard, and she's like, man, I want an alpha man. Well, she's already working hard, right? And she's already in that masculine energy, so she's going to attract a man who's more feminine, who maybe doesn't want to work as hard. Maybe he wants to stay at home and take care of children and stuff like that. maybe even a more nurturing man. So with that, so with this perspective, if a beta female is masculine and betas attract betas, then that would mean that that female would be more likely to attract a beta man. The beta man being the guy who is a little bit more, he's more feminine with his disposition and his energy. So the exception to this, I think, is the beta females. So you get females who are masculine, but they end up attracting a guy who's even more masculine. So one thing I'll say is there's levels to it. So even if a woman is masculine in her disposition, if she attracts a guy who's even more masculine, then she's still the feminine of that. You know, there's levels to it. So that's that's one of the main things. So there's levels to this stuff, and every guy has his level, and every woman, you know, they have their level. So yeah. So let me think. So I said this in the first two videos, and I just want to reiterate because it's pretty much one of the most pertinent points that I could ever make on this. So the true alpha female to men is different than what most women are led to believe. But the reason why we have the issue of understanding this, I believe, is because women view other women differently than men view women. So if you have a group of women and there's one woman calling the shots and she's the loudest, and you know she's the one that all of the women are following, well, within that dynamic, she's actually the alpha in that group. I think among women, you do have alphas. You do have leaders of that group. The issue comes when you try to when you're trying to say a woman is alpha within a man's, you know, interpretation. You know, to us, we don't view that woman who's looking out and saying, okay, you do this, you do that. We don't, like, that's not that's not necessarily the most attractive to us. The most attractive to most men is the most physically attractive female and the most feminine female. So I mean, when you think about the reasons for that, it's because that's the most desirable on a biological level. If a woman is feminine, imagine how she could nurture your children, for example. Imagine how she could take care of you. I mean, there's a lot of, and when I say take care of, I mean, like, you know, fix you a plate, you know, come up to your dress really nicely when you're going out, just have a pleasant demeanor, give you peace, give you comfort, that kind of thing. So yeah, so I said most of it, and I'll just go back to the main point. So I was talking about betas at first. So then the alpha female, one of the things about the alpha female is that they don't really stay on the market very long, and they don't have problems getting married and even staying married, in my opinion, because that energy that alpha females emit, the energy of an alpha female is so strong that it actually drives a lot of men, like, even if they're not the husbands, they'll actually, like, it can drive them to want to do things just because, not even have to get in a relationship with the woman, but just because of the energy, it actually drives them to do things. Like, the woman doesn't actually have to, you know, manipulate the guy. She doesn't have to come up with some, you know, concoct some scheme to get some guy to do something for her. All she has to do is emit that energy, and the guy will naturally want to do things for her. Like, it's uncanny, and I can say that from experience. From me as a guy, the most feminine women that I've come in contact with, it's just they've had a pull on me that was just unreal. It didn't really seem real, and it didn't really seem it was like I was being mesmerized. But that's I think that's a lot of the power. That's a lot of so that's a lot about how women have kind of lost a lot of things that they used to have and that older generations used to know about, and they kind of sacrificed it for career over family, which, you know, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But most women, they could get a lot of the things that they want in life, uh, but we're not really giving them the tools to do that. And I think we're being very disingenuous in this way. So when I say alpha beta, really it's just man attracts woman, woman attracts man. Being a man is what attracts the optimal woman. Being a woman is what attracts the optimal man. So yeah, that's a little bit more on that. That's beta attracts beta.